everyone. Today I will talk about an explanation framework named Learning to Explain. It's an information theoretic approach for model interpretation. This work was published in ICML 2018. The authors were Jianbo Chen, Lei Song, Martin Wainwright, and Michael Jordan. Let's start. So this is a overview of my whole tutorials. So first I will give a brief motivation of the explanation framework. Then I will talk briefly about the existing work. Then I will directly go to the L2X model, which is learning to explain model. And then I will show the coding and how to implement it and how we can use this framework with some real hands-on coding. And then I will discuss the results reported by this paper, where they showed that how they have used this L2X model to explain some classification models. So what is the motivations for explanation? I know that in the previous talk, Devashish has already covered it in detail. So I will just quickly go over this slide. So the motivations of the explanation framework can be broadly categorized into two areas. One is for explaining the applications of machine learning, and the other one is for explaining the complex models. So like applications of machine learning, like medicine, financial markets, criminal justice. So suppose there is a model which predicts that whether a person is a criminal or not, depending on his previous records, then we can know that using the explanation framework that what was the exact reason for which the model predicted that person as a criminal. For financial markets, stock market prediction is an important thing where we use the machine learning. So there also we can know the reasons behind those predictions. For complex models, like for deep neural models, we do not exactly know. We know what is the output, but we do not know that why exactly is that output. So that part, this explanation framework can be used in that part to understand that why a particular deep learning model is predicting, giving it that certain kind of output. Random, the same thing applies for this random forest kernel methods. These are all complex models, and explanation framework helps to understand the reason behind the outputs of these complex models. This is a example scenario. So where I have shown that how explanation models have been used. So so we have taken a model which takes as input a sentence, or which can take as input as a sentence or an image. So, and the output will be the output of the explanation model will be the importance of the different features. As you can see that suppose the model takes the paragraph as the input, and then it shows the importance of different words in that paragraph for the particular output of the model. The highlighted words are shown which that particular explanation model has thought as important for the from the model perspective. Similarly, for the image, the highlighted portion, the explanation framework can identify those highlighted portions, that those are the important pixels that that particular image model used for predicting a certain output. So this is the kind of example scenario. So now this is a brief overview of the existing explanation research work. So there are a lot of works. I have picked some of them which I thought was important. Lime has been covered by Devashish already. So I will talk about kernel SHAP and integrated gradients. So kernel SHAP is another model agnostic explanation framework, and which gives the human interpretable explanation units. It is generally applied on the tabular data and which uses regression framework. Integrated gradient is also another explanation framework which is mainly applied on structured data and images. And it also predicts the importance of features in a model. It helps to identify whether the data is skewed or not, and it also helps in debugging if the performance of a model. So what can be the properties of an explanation model? So one property is the whether you need a training data or not. The another property is whether it is efficient in terms of time complexity or not. The another property can be the whether it is additive or not. An additive model means whether it basically uses a regression framework for explaining the model or not. And the fourth property is model agnostic. I mean, so while explaining a model, then you can understand then here we are talking about two different models. One is the model itself, which we are going to explain. Another is the explanation model. So we need to understand that whether the explanation model is dependent on that particular model which are going to explain or not. So that we call as model agnostic property. So in this table, I have shown the comparison of the different properties in the existing work and L2X. So the interesting thing to note is that all the other existing explanation frameworks, like for example, Line, Kernel, SHAP, integrated gradients, all those are additive. That means they use the regression framework for explanation, but L2X doesn't use regression framework. Another thing is that we have, I mean, the authors have shown that, like in terms of time complexity, L2X has the, lowest time complexity. So the efficiency is highest compared to the other three explanation frameworks in this table. And Line, Kernel, SHAP, and integrated gradients doesn't need training data for explaining, but L2X needs training data for explaining. And most of the models are model agnostic. You can see from the table, only integrated gradients is not model agnostic. So now let's talk about L2X. So here I will talk about the framework and notations used in the L2X model. So I am explaining the framework and notations in the same slide because these two are, very much related for explaining this L2X model. So the input to a L2X model is a d-dimensional feature vector for an input sample. So this d-dimensional feature vector is basically the same which we give as input to the original model also, which we are going to actually explain. So L2X also take the same feature vector as input. Now, what kind of models we can use to explain the L2X? What kind of models can be explained using L2X? So where we know where generally what my observation is that in terms of classification models, L2X works well. So where we have access to a conditional distribution of probability of Y given X, where X is the input and Y is the output. So where we have access to this kind of conditional distribution of the probability of output given the input, those kind of models we can explain using L2X. Okay, so what does actually L2X gives as an input? So the eventual objective of L2X is to identify a k-dimensional feature vector, which is a subset of those that d-dimensional feature vector, which we think as important for a particular input sample. Now, this particular k-dimensional subset feature vector can vary across different input samples. It doesn't need to be the same. So, to define the L2X model, we need the notation S, which we determine as a feature subset of size k. Okay, so using L2X, what we get, that I said that we get a k-dimensional subset feature vector for each input sample. But what exactly is the output of the explainer model? The L2X model. That is this P of S by X. So which means the probability of the subset feature vector given the input as a given the input feature vector. So that is the output of the explainer model. We determine this, denote this function as xi. So this is a graphical model I have shown over here in this triangular diagram. So I have tried to show the dependence of the different variables in this notation. So as you can see that xs, which is the eventually k-dimensional subset vector, that is dependent on both X and S. So obviously XS is a subset of X, which is the input, was the input vector. So that's why XS is dependent on X and the arrow is over there. And XS is also chosen based on S. So that's why XS is also dependent on S. Now, from X to S mapping, that P of the conditional distribution of S given X is determined by the function xi. That's why we have shown the dependence between X and S, and that's why the xi was mentioned on that arrow. Okay, so this is the kind of graphical description of the L2X model. So what is the objective function for the L2X model? In L2X model, we try to maximize the mutual information between the selected features and the output response variable over the explainer xi. So you can see that mathematically we have written is that it tries to maximize I of xs y. Xs is the subset vector that we have chosen, subject to S is chosen from the xi x. So what is exactly this mutual information? So theoretically, we define that between two random variables, mutual information is basically a measure of dependence between those two random variables. So how much the knowledge of X reduces the uncertainty of Y. So here in the equation, I have shown the actual formula for computing mutual information. So as you can see that I of xy is equal to expectation of log of probability of xy divided by probability of x into probability of y. So probability of xy, what is in the denominator is basically the joint probability of x and y, and we are and in the denominator we have shown the individual probabilities of x and probabilities of y. So this is the mathematical description, but you can think of mutual information as something which tries to estimate how much related these two random variables are, since in our case we try to measure that how much related this subset vector x's and the output variable is. And why we are trying this? Because we are trying to estimate that what are the important features, because more a feature will be important, more these x's and the y will be related, right? That's why we are trying to maximize this mutual information between x's and y. So now if I try to, so as I say that I of x is y is the objective function for this L2X. Now I have shown the formula for computing expectation. So if we try to expand I of x is y according to that formula, then it becomes expectation of probability of x is y divided by probability of x's into probability of y. Now, if we expand probability of x is y according to Bayes formula, then you will see that p of x's will be eliminated. So then eventually this equation becomes expectation of log of probability of y given x's divided by probability of y. Now, again, if we try to expand this equation according to the formula of expectation, it will become E of, expectation of probability of y given x is minus expectation of probability of py. But, and now, as we know that in L2X, we are eventually interested in x's, which is the k-dimensional subset vector of the original feature vector. So that's why E of probability of y is constant over here. So we can write it as it is shown in this third line of the expansion, that E of expectation of probability of y given x's plus constant. So this is how we can expand the original objective function, mutual information objective function that I showed in my earlier slide. So, okay, once this is fixed, so now there is a problem. This P of probability of y given x this is intractable. We do not know how to estimate this distribution, because what we are trying to do over here is we want to predict the conditional distribution of the output given the subset feature vector. And the subset feature vector, like for example, you can understand that if there is a d-dimensional original feature vector, then within that there can be d choose k number of possible subsets of k dimension, and for these many subset options we cannot estimate this distribution p of y given x is. So this objective is intractable. So there we try different techniques to make our objective eventually tractable and feasible to solve. So what are the different techniques that we have used is the introduction of variational lower bound, a neural network for parameterizing the distributions, and continuous relaxation of subset sampling. So I will not go into very much detail of each of these things, but I will try to describe what was the reason behind doing taking this each step, and I mean how the objective function is eventually evolving. I mean from the overview point, model overview point of view. So what is this variational lower bound? So variational lower bound is a concept in statistics which we use when we do not, we can't estimate an original distribution. So we take a simpler distribution which is almost similar like that unknown distribution, and we try to estimate that. So that is the concept of variational lower bound. So as I said earlier, that our original objective function, which is expectation of log of p of y given x's, is intractable. So here we introduce the variational approximation QS. So by using this QS, by introducing this QS and again applying Jensen's inequality, we get we get the equation that I have shown first in this slide, which is expectation of log of p of y given x's, which is our original objective, was our original objective function, that is greater than equals to p of y given x's into log of qs y given x's. Now, once we get this inequality, then we can relax the mutual information maximization problem as a variational lower bound maximization problem. What does that mean? We can take, instead of maximizing the left hand side part of the inequality, we can maximize the right hand side of the inequality in this equation, because eventually maximizing that part will also maximize the right hand side, right? So that's why we can relax that condition, and we can say that our objective function we can write as expectation of probability of y given x is log of qs y given x's. Now that part can be, from the mathematical formulation we can write that also as a expectation of log of qs y given x's, and this I have shown here in equation number 4. So this is eventually our intermediate objective function. So from the intractable one, now we have come to a tractable objective function. So now let's see what can be the problem. So still it is very difficult to solve. So there comes our neural network. What we do is we introduce a single neural network for parameterizing Q. So the Q, which was a variational approximation, as you can see in equation 5, can be written as a collection of QS, where each QS is the conditional distribution of the response variable given one subset K-sized vector. Now, how we can parameterize Q by a single neural network with alpha? So you can see in the equation 6 I have written that QS, we can write QS y given xs as a G alpha xs y. What does that mean? That we are designing here a neural network which will be parameterized with alpha, and which will take xs as an input and it will predict y as a output. And what is xs? Xs is a vector. Remember from the previous notations that xs is a k-dimensional subset feature vector. And how xs will be initialized, that I have shown in equation number 7. You can see that in equation 7 that so xs has a k dimension, but for all those dimensions which belongs to the set S, I mean those features that are important, I mean that we can estimate as important, for those only the xs value will be equals to xi. Otherwise the value of xs will be 0. So that's how we initialize the input to this neural network. So that's how, so this is how we are solving the difficult solution of, difficult problem of that objective function using neural network. Now, in spite of using this neural network, here also still we have to go over those d choose k number of combinations, because a d-dimensional feature vector can have d choose k number of subset feature vector of size k. So we still need to go over the d choose k number of combinations for the objective function. So to tackle that problem, and d choose k can be a huge number for a large dimensional feature space. So for those reasons, here we use the Gumbel softmax technique. So what we do in Gumbel softmax is that we define a concrete random vector and we denote it as C. So C is a d-dimensional vector, and here each dimension will determine the probability of each category of the feature, noted by, as you can see here, from P1 to PD. So there will be D number of probabilities. Each P suffix I will show the probability of that particular, of that ith category. So now how this each CI is estimated? So each CI, as I have shown over here, will be proportional to the e to the power log of pi plus gi divided by tau I. So here we are using a softmax, as you can understand from the equation. We are using a softmax to estimate the value of CI. Now, here GI is the Gumbel parameter. As I said that we are using Gumbel softmax technique. So what is Gumbel? It is basically a kind of uniform distribution between 0 to 1. So basically we sample a number, sample from this uniform distribution a number that is denoted by GI. And what is tau I? Tau I, tau is basically here a hyperparameter which you can, which we fix before starting the experiments. It is called the temperature parameter. So it basically controls the value of CI, as you can understand from the equation. So if tau is very large, then CIs will be almost uniform. But if tau is small, then we can, there will be difference between the values of different CIs, as you can understand. So yeah, so that's how each CI is identified. Now what we do is that we sample. So once like one concrete random vector is computed, so we sample these CI values for k times. So this is how we generate concrete random vectors. And now once we generate these k random vectors, we are sampling this k times because we want to eventually our objective is to find the k subset feature space. That's why we sample it k times. Now, so once we sample it k times, then we introduce a new variable which is called v. So how, and that will also be a d-dimensional vector. So how the each dimension of the v is calculated? So as you can see over here, I have written that vi will be equal to max of ci, for all, for across all the j combinations. So remember that I have sampled, created k number of c vectors. So for each column, so I have k number of generated values. So from those k values, I will take the maximum one for v for vi. So this is how v is generated. So after generating V, we can say that our k-dimensional feature subspace vector xs is equivalent to V theta zeta cross x. So this symbol is called ring product. That means we are doing element-wise product. So x was the original feature vector and we are multiplying with V. So what is it basically doing? It is trying to, trying to lower the importance of the feature. Those we think is not that much important, and is trying to increase the importance of those features which we think as an important. Because remember that eventually C is a d-dimensional vector where each dimension was showing the probability of that particular category. So by multiplying V with X, element doing this product, we get the XS, which was the input for our neural network that I showed in the previous slide. So after eventually applying all these things, our here I have shown that how the objective function has eventually changed. So initially it was max of expectation of log of QSY given XS. So after introducing this neural network and the Gumbel softmax techniques, now this becomes max of expectation of log of V of theta xi into XY. So here Xi is an auxiliary random, zeta is an auxiliary random variable. Theta is a parameter of the explainer, and alpha is the parameter of the variational distribution. Okay, so this is how the objective function is changing. So now this is the overview of the model. So in the training stage, what we will do is we will try to estimate those parameters using the stochastic gradient method. I have already explained the objective function. In those objective function, basically we will try to estimate the value of optimum value of theta and alpha. And that in the explaining stage, what we will do is we will eventually rank the features according to the value of p theta x. That's how our explanation unit will look like. So now I will directly go to the code and I will, so this is the link for the code. You can check and I will now show you the code. Just a minute. Okay. Okay. I hope you can see my screen. So this is the GitHub repository originally. I will first talk about something. Okay. So this is the original repository. So actually they did report some results on IMDb dataset and MNIST dataset. So okay, so first I will say that I mean how you can install this I mean run this code. So you can run this code. So they have this requirements.txt file which you can use to install all the required things. You just need some basic things like NumPy, TensorFlow, Keras, Panda, and NLTK. And they have mentioned like they need the, so you need the Keras version 2.0 for this and the TensorFlow version 1.2.1 or higher. So I have tested this with up to TensorFlow 1.15. So I know that it works with up to TensorFlow 1.15. Beyond that, it doesn't work. It doesn't work mean like you have to change some of the functions then, because I mean obviously the algorithm will remain same, but maybe some of the functions, I mean for example set random seed can be random seed just, so this kind of some functions will change. So you have to change a lot. So up to TensorFlow 1.5 you can use this code, and I have run this code on Python 3.7, but it works fine also in Python 2.7 and all. That's not an issue. So this is everything in terms of installing this code, if you say. So since they have done experiment on three different things, this IMDb word, IMDb sentence, and the another one is MNIST. So they have already given some models, already trained models. So this L2x.hdf5 is the explainer model that they have already trained and saved over here. And this original.hdf5 is the original model. So they have worked on the, I mean, they have taken the IMDb reviews and predicted the sentiments. So it is that training of that model that they have saved over here as original.hdf5. So for IMDb sentence also, they have these models already set. So now I will show the experiments with this IMDb Send. So let me switch to that. So I hope you can see my Google Colab screen. So here you can see that I am using TensorFlow 1.5.15 and Keras 2.0.0, and Python version is 3.7. So I need two data so what is this IMDb sentence data set? As I said, like we have sentences and we have the corresponding sentiments. Whether it is a positive sentiment and negative sentiment. This is just a binary classifier. And you need these two data set, label train data.tsp and label test data.tsp to run this particular code. I am here basically running the explain.py function in this code repository, which so this explain.py function, this has the basically explainer function. I am basically running that particular code. Okay. And okay, so what are the things that you need to know over here for running is that, so these are the since they are taking sentence as an input, so this particular program will show the, so it will give as an input a whole paragraph. So the different dimensions, I mean the explanation units will be here, the different sentences. So eventually we'll know that within a paragraph which sentences were important for a particular input sample. That's what we will know over there. So here we have to mention the dimensions of the maximum sentence length, maximum number of sentence that a paragraph can have. So these are the some basic uh, parameters and that you will fix over there. So they have used this set random seed so that you do not get different results in different, if you run it different times. So that's why you have to fix the random seed for NumPy and TensorFlow both. That is one thing. So to learn the NL2X, first what you have to do is that, uh, let me show this function, this create original model, which is eventually called from this function, generate original predictions. So in this function, what you will do is you will basically, you can see that you are loading the data using the function load underscore data. So suppose you are applying on any different, any other problem, other classification problem rather than the IMDb sentiment classification, sentence classification problem. What you will do over here is that you will train your original model. You will load the data. You will take as input in your original model. Obviously, your original data and the input will be taken from the data. I mean, trained data will come, and you will have output variable. So that part is written over here in this function. You can see that this model.fit is called, and this is the file path, which is basically save, which will basically save the model. And so you will run the model with the epochs, and then it will save your original model. So then what you will need for explanation eventually will be this pred underscore train dot npy. What are these things? These are the predicted outputs by the original model, because these outputs you are eventually, I mean, these are the outputs that you are eventually going to explain. So you need to save those somewhere. So you need to define your original model, which you will eventually explain in within this function. You have to train that model. Then from the trained model, you will save the predicted outputs, because those outputs will be required to train our explain. So, and so that's the function of this particular function, generate original predictions. So here is basically in this generate original preds function, basically they have loaded the data and call this model.fit function. But the original model structure is given in this create original model. So for example, here they have taken a hierarchical LSTM model. So the, I mean, bidirectional LSTM model, so that they have explained all the layers and all. So whatever model you choose for explaining, you can describe that here. What you need to understand is that what will be the input to this model. The input to the L2X model will be same. I mean, the explainer model will be same. And you first need to run your, or I mean, train your original model, because you need the predicted outputs, because those are the things that you are eventually going to explain. So that is done. And if you want to just train your original model, you can see in the main function over here. So they have different arguments. So if you put task is equal to original, then they run this original predictions function only. What this function eventually do is just save the output of the originally trained model. So once that is done, then we go to L2X. So L2X also have two different modes. One is train is equal to true, here you can see, or train is equal to false. If you do train is equal to true, that means L2X will train. Otherwise, it will load a or already saved model. For example, in the code I showed that this L2X.hdf5 file they have already saved. So you can directly load that model and try to explain this model. But that L2X.hdf5 model will only work for the IMDb sentiment classification problem. It will not work for any other model that you want to explain. You need to train your original, your explainer in a different way. So how this L2X model is coded? So this is the L2X function. What it does is, as you can see, it first loads the data. X train, X val, and Y train, Y val. So these are the basically the input space same as the original model, but the and the predicted outputs we take over here. I mean the predicted output, the outputs predicted by the original model. So here in the selection model, here you can see that tf dot variable scope selection model. This is the review input. Here you basically declare your input dimension, and this should be exactly same as your original model. And whatever model on you are working, I mean that you want to explain, you have to define here its input space. That will be input to your L2X model. Okay. Now you can see this logits underscore t is equal to construct Gumbel selector function. So this logits underscore t is basically that d-dimensional probability vector, which I showed as, I mean, like the PIs. I mean, those PIs in my slide, I showed those PIs. So those PIs are basically this logits underscore t vector. You are going to sort the features based on the values of this logits underscore t eventually. And that's how you will get your k-dimensional subset vector. So what is done within this construct Gumbel selector function? If you go to this construct Gumbel selector function. So this construct Gumbel selector function takes as input each explanation units. So in this IMDb sentiment classification problem, eventually we give as input a paragraph, and we see that what is the importance of different sentences in this paragraph for a particular sentiment. So that's why the each sentence is given as an input to this construct Gumbel selector function. So suppose you are taking any other classifier model, there you have to identify that what should be your explanation unit. You want to explain in the importance of different words or sentences or whatever. So what is the unit of your explanation, that should be defined over here. Okay, so that is so that you can see that sentence is the maximum number of sentences that a review can have. Okay, so once you define the input, now here you can see that they have defined different layers. For example, this embedding layer, then this embedded sequence, then dropout, then convolutional, then I mean there are a lot of things, kind of one-dimensional convolution, global max pooling. So for IMDb sentiment classification, they designed that the neural network that I was talking about while explaining the objective function, that we try to approximate the variational distribution using the neural network. So this is that design of that particular neural network that we have done. So there is no fixed rule of designing this particular neural network. You can try it in your own way using different kind of architectures. But what you have to keep in mind that your input should be the same as the explanation unit, and your output should be a d-dimensional vector which will show the importance, I mean, where the value of each dimension should vary from 0 to 1, because that will be a probability vector. of D dimension, which will show the importance of different features in your feature space. So in the IMDb sentiment classification problem, they have found that this particular architecture was working well. That's why they have used. You can use a single layer also and see that how it is working for your model. So as you can see, this last layer where they have shown this logits underscore t is equal to one dimensional convolution layer and something. So this is eventually giving you, this here is eventually giving you a d-dimensional feature vector, where each dimension will show the importance of that particular dimension. Each dimension will have a value which will show the importance of that particular dimension. So this is how this construct Gumbel selector function is computed. That's how you can change that. So once that is done, here you get those p theta values. Then they call, so here you can see that they have fixed tau is equal to 0.5. As I have said that you can set tau according, I mean, you can change the value of tau and see that how your method is explainer is performing. But if the tau value is, as I said earlier also, that if the tau value is larger, then in most of the cases, each of the value of logits t will be will be very similar. So it will be kind of uniform probability vector that we do not want. Basically, we want to choose the k most important features. So that's why it is better to keep the tau value low. So now what is this sample underscore concrete function? Go to this. So once we have this logits t, so then we call this sample underscore concrete function. So what it does, remember that particular part where I showed that using Gumbel softmax, I am doing element-wise multiplication of V and X. So that is all happening within this part of code. So they are taking the logits and then this Gumbel function is computed, and from that using the softmax, you remember they are dividing the, I hope you can see my highlighted portions. So here you can see how they're dividing with tau and computing each values, and then they are sampling it for k times, and then eventually they are sending the, after k times sample, they are computing that v vector from this function, and that they will return from this function. So that's what happening here in this sample underscore concrete function. And once that sample underscore concrete function is called, then once that is done, then element wise product, so now V is formed. They have sampled the concrete random vector k times and chosen the maximum values and constructed the V vector. Now this prediction, now they are doing this element wise product. So here you can see that using some convolutional layer, here this multiply function, you can see selected encoding is equal to review encoder 2 and t. So this review encoder is the original input that I declared earlier. With that, they are multiplying this t. T is basically that v vector that I explained theoretically. Now, what are these layers in between? So they have added this layer just to match the dimension, because to multiply review encoder and the t, you have those of them, two of them has to have the same dimensions. So to do that, they have introduced this, these layers. These are not necessary layers. Depending on your model and output, you can change these layers. What matters is that eventually your T and review encoder has to have the same dimension, because you are doing the element wise product. So that's how they are doing this selected encoding. And once that selected encoding is done, then they are trying to predict this two-dimensional vector using this with ReLU function and with this two classes. Because in this sentiment classification problem, there are only two classes, positive or negative sentiment. And this is given as you can see here. So how the explainer model eventually is working, that model will be is equal to input will be the review input and the output will be these predictions. So what we will supply over here in the review input, we will supply the same inputs that we were originally supplying to the original model, and in the output we will supply the predicted outputs by the original model. originally trained model. So that's how we will supply the inputs to the explainer, and then here the model is compiling, and then from predict train. So these are already loading the already saved predicted outputs, and then this model fit is called, and this model will be trained. The explainer model will be trained over here. So, and here you can see that predicted model will be is equal to model. It is taking review input as input, and it is predicting t logits underscore t and preds as output. So the reason for including logits underscore t is as input, as I said, that logits underscore t will give you the importance of different features for each individual sample. So this is what eventually you need, because once you will have that, then you will sort the original vector based on those feature importance, original input vector based on those feature importance, and you can choose the k dimensional input vector that you can show that this is the explanation for those that particular input sample. So yeah, that's so there is also a function called create dataset from scores. So what it does is basically, once you have that logits underscore t values from the trained explainer model. So what you can do, like for each input sample, you can choose that k dimensional input vectors. So it basically creates that subset of vector. So now I will again switch back to my slides, and I will show that using this kind of code, what kind of results you can get. Okay, so as I said, like they did experiments with IMDb movie review with word-based CNN. So the first two are the same problem, but they have used two different models, and the explanation units are also that's why different, because the first one, in the first one, the explanation units are word, and in the second one, the explanation units are sentence, and there is also MNIST with CNN. So this is the output of the IMDb movie review with word-based CNN. So as you can see that in the first column, the original truth level is given. For example, for the first paragraph, the original prediction was, original level was positive. And the CNN based model also predicted that paragraph as a positive. And the explainer model has shown the importance of the each word. I mean, that logits underscore t variable has shown the importance of the each word in this paragraph for that particular predicted output for positive. And we have chosen the highlighted words, which we found that those are the most important based on that probability values in the logits underscore t. As you can see that winning, mildly, and captivating, this kind of words has driven the model to predict that particular review as positive. For the negative review also, in the second example, you can see that the words like tired, unrealistic, boring, this kind of words was the reason that this particular review was tagged as negative. You can see one false positive also. Like in the third example, the paragraph was actually labeled as negative, but the classifier model predicted it as positive. And what was the reason? As you can see in the red marked words, the words like classic, inspired, these are kind of positive words, right? So these kind of words were given more importance by the model. That's why it has predicted that particular review has positive. So we can now understand why the model behaved that particular way. In the last example also, you can see that it was originally positive and it has predicted as negative. But, and I mean, the contrasting words are like, for example, loser. So this kind of word has driven the model to predict this review as negative, but which was eventually actually positive. So that was word-based explanation. Here you can see sentence-based explanation. So in the first review, this movie with heart and this is a movie with heart and excellent acting by all. So this kind of sentence, the model has given more importance to this particular sentence compared to other sentences. That's why it tagged this particular review as positive. But in the case of false positive, you can say that she is a good actress and brilliant singer. So the model by mistake has given more importance to this sentence compared to any other sentences in the review. That's why it has tagged predicted is at positive, whereas in reality it was actually negative. So this is how this L2X frameworks helps us to understand why a model is behaving in a particular way. And since L2X, once you train the L2X, you, then it works on the trained model. That's why the time complexity here is quite, low. So this is the example with images. So here we have taken only a sample images of 8 and 3s. So the red colored parts are the red colored patches are basically those pixels that L2X has highlighted that the model thought as the important features for that particular image. And the rest of the pixels, the L2X didn't determine as not that important for determining that uh, particular digit. And they have shown in their paper that with this kind of, so what L2X does is that it shows the importance of different features. And now based on those importance features, if you choose if you create a subset data set, then the accuracy of that particular subset data set is also comparable with the original data set. So which proves that L2X actually can explain, actually can understand that what are the different features that was actually important for the original model. So yeah, that's it. So here I will end. So I have taken most of the slides from the original author's slides. The link I have shown over here. The link of the original paper also here, the URL you can see. This you can freely access. And if you have any questions, you can ask now, or you can also mail me. My mail ID is sitting over there. Thank you.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes, I can hear you.
Ma'am, the portion where you described that out of where we make the concrete vectors, where we choose the probability maximum probabilities. So I wanted to ask that, like, first of all, correct me if I'm wrong, that when we choose the K samples from the D features, so for each of those samples that we have created, we choose the maximum probability, right, for the feature.
Yes, we create k. First, we create k different d-dimensional vectors.
Yes, yes.
So think of it as a matrix of k cross d. Now,
Okay. Now,
so yeah, now along each column, so from this k cross d matrix, you will eventually form a d-dimensional vector. How will you form that d-dimensional vector? That from each column you will take the maximum value.
okay,
From
so I
that k
wanted
cross
to
d matrix, you will choose the maximum value from each column.
Okay, so that's what I wanted to ask. Like, why are we choosing the maximum value? Like, if we choose the maximum value rather than normalizing over all the columns, then it would mean that we are considering that the current feature is independent of all the other features. Like, it doesn't matter which set of features we are choosing for the selection. It just matters that in which set the probability of that feature is maximum. Uh,
Yes, we are choosing the maximum. The reason for choosing the maximum over here is that we want to boost each feature. It may happen that if we do not choose the maximum one, as you are saying, that suppose after sampling k times, if you're choosing the minimum one or the mean one, so what may happen that suppose for 2 times it has got higher values, and rest of the times it was very low, among those k times, then the value of that feature can be, the importance of that feature can be eventually chosen as very low. But we are trying to boost the value of each feature, and then eventually from that we will choose the k-dimensional subset one. You understand?
Okay. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Actually, this is an interesting question. I mean, you can try with, as you said, that with the mean value. I mean, you can just tweak the code where I have shown that where they have chosen the maximum one, that sample concrete function. You can change that. You can take the mean and or the minimum value, either mean or the minimum value, and see that how that is working. So my estimation that is that what will happen, that you are not. I mean, you will kind of penalize a feature unnecessarily. That's why they have taken this maximum one. You can try that, like how that is.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, so I guess if there are no further questions, then I think we can move on to the next speaker. So I can see Sujana starting her video and then getting geared up for her talk.
Yeah, hi Devashish.
So I think if there are no questions, I think we can have a Q&A session towards the end of our talks,
Yeah.
where we three could be present, and then if you
Yeah.
have any common questions, you could also have some more time to think over the questions and prepare the questions and then throw them at us. Try to unsettle us down. So
You try your best to
yeah,
answer.
we can give you some more time to prepare your questions. But I think we can move on to the next talk, and Sujana can present the Shapley thing.
Yeah, thanks Devashish, and thanks Pracheta for this wonderful talk. Let me just share my